Welcome to the CPS webinar. My name is Daphne Duro. I'm a teacher and a tutor in the CPS program. Josh, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Josh. I'm a third year bachelor student, so I'm nearly finished with my program actually. And I'm originally from the UK, so I've been here for 2 years now.
Yeah, so we introduced ourselves, but we have also a moderator. She will answer all the questions that you ask on the chat. If you have some questions, we might answer during the presentation, but at the end of we will give a presentation for about 25-30 minutes, and at the end we have a session called Q&A where we answer all the questions that are still remaining. Well, it's very important that there will be created new drugs for diseases where no drugs are available yet, but also new drugs for diseases where there are drugs available, but they have a lot of side effects, so we need better drugs. So it's important that young people like you are trained to become multidisciplinary scientists and contribute to society in the development of new drugs. So as I said, this is a presentation of about 30 minutes. We will first tell a little bit more, what does it mean to do drug research? What are you doing during the day, or what are you investigating? Then we will tell you more about how CPS teaches their students to do drug research. And then, as I said, we will end with the Q&A session. So what does it mean to do drug research? Therefore, we will give you 3 examples. And the nice thing about these examples is that the examples come from students that are in the CPS program. So when you are in the CPS program, you already actively participate in drug research. So the first example is on sorry, I went too fast. The first example is on antibiotic resistance. So in the last century, during the 50s, antibiotics were discovered, and they were tremendously helpful because diseases that would otherwise even kill people could now be treated. But as you probably know, bacteria multiply very often, and with every multiplication, there is a chance that they will develop resistance to the antibiotic drug. So at the moment in Europe, it is estimated that 25,000 people a year die because there is no antibiotic drug available to treat them. So it's very important that new antibiotic drugs are developed. And here you see Tom, and he worked on a new molecule. In his projects, they were designing molecules that can bind to a component of the bacterial cell wall. So the bacteria will be hampered in making their wall, and if the bacteria cannot make a nice wall, they become leaky and they cannot survive. And it is also thought that this approach of this kind of molecules can treat many types of bacterial strains. Josh, what are you currently doing?
So this is one of my projects that I've done so far. It was looking into how we can correct a genetic disorder. So it's quite a rare disease, and it's to do with, it's a bit like Alzheimer's, but then across the whole body. So it's quite a rare disease. Doesn't affect many people, but we looked at how we could correct this using gene editing techniques was the focus. So it wasn't actually a practical blog. So this was researching and then putting together a research paper to explain what we found and how we found out. And we used CRISPR-Cas, which obviously I think everyone has hopefully heard of. And we looked at how we could target this towards the cells which were going wrong, edit their genes, and then get them to produce this protein that we wanted. So I worked particularly on the targeting mechanism for this.
Yes.
So we could inject it, have it go exactly where we wanted it.
And how did you approach this? With targeting?
Yeah, we had to do quite a lot of investigation about how they do it at the moment.
Yeah.
And we found this new polymer that they use, and they can attach antigens, which are the things that cells use to recognize things.
Mm-hmm.
And then it can go inside specific cells that express these receptors for these antigens. So what's actually quite interesting is the week after that we'd written this paper
Yeah.
in the news,
Yeah.
they then used exactly the same targeting mechanism on something which they're then going to the clinic with. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity to actually come up with things that are really applicable.
Yeah.
I think it's quite nice.
The last example is on inflammatory bowel disease. So your bowels are inflamed, and two known diseases are colitis ulcerosa and Crohn's disease. So people suffer from flares of stomach ache, and they take painkillers. And if the disease is really playing up, sometimes they get immunosuppressants, because it's thought that your own immune system that should attack bacteria and viruses is actually attacking the own cells of your body, in this case the gut cells. So people receive immunosuppressive drugs, but the backside is that people become then more prone to for example, bacteria or viruses. Here you see Amanda, and she did a project in a course on advanced immunology, and in the laboratory she joined for this course, they have a model, an animal model for inflammatory bowel disease, for colitis to be specific, and she at various stages of the disease, she isolated the bowels, and she made nice slices, and she colored those slices to be able to visualize the specific cells. And then now in the picture you see her behind the microscope, and on the screen the tissue is projected so that she could study the specific immune cells that are present at various stages of the disease. And if you have this knowledge, you can potentially target the immune cells that are really important, or really present and dominant in the bowels. So this was just in very shortly 3 examples. But what would you like to do if you become a drug researcher? Would you like to unravel a disease mechanism, for example, in Alzheimer's disease? Would you like to design a new drug molecule? Because if you know it's wrong, the next step is how can we target this disease? Perhaps you'd like to think about a new route of drug administration. For example, diabetes patients would be very happy if drug researchers could come up with another way of providing insulin, not by injection, but in an easier way. So the next thing we like to discuss is how does CPS teach you to do drug research? Well, first of all, about the content, it's a multidisciplinary study. It encompasses biomedical sciences, chemistry, biology, pharmacy, and medicine. All these disciplines come together. Because if you want to design a drug, you first need to know what is the difference between a healthy person and a diseased person. So that is biomedical sciences. Then, if you know what's wrong, you need to design a molecule. It can be either a small organic molecule or perhaps a peptide, so that's chemistry. Then you would like to test the binding and see if something is changing in the cell, and that is biology. You also need to think about how am I going to administer my drug. That is pharmacy. And lastly, when the drug looks promising in animal studies, it will be tested in healthy volunteers first, but later on in patient groups. So that is medicine. Now we are talking about drugs a lot, and also the biomedical sciences passed already. What is the difference between those studies, between biomedical science on the left hand, CPS in the middle, and pharmacy on the right? Well, all studies teach a lot about human physiology and disease, but CPS and pharmacy also teach about drugs. And CPS teaches a lot about developing new drugs, whereas pharmacy has a focus on drugs that already exist. So you learn more about which drugs is preferred, what should you advise the patient, what dosages are prescribed. Because both CPS and pharmacy learn you a lot about drugs, there's relatively there's a 50-50 balance between biology and chemistry, whereas biomedical sciences has a higher component of biology. And then CPS and biomedical sciences train the students to become a researcher. And pharmacy teaches students to become a pharmacist. So Josh, you went through the program quite some part already.
Yeah.
Could you tell more about the program?
Yeah, so each year here in Utrecht is broken down into four blocks of 10 weeks. So the first year is really focusing from the big to the small. So you start off by looking at how the drugs work within populations, how we can study that, how to run a clinical trial, and all the mathematical background behind how we do drug research in people. The second course is then about looking at how the drug works in the body. So how, when you take a pill, where to go, where to leave the body, what effects do these have, and how we need to consider that when we're making a new drug. The third course is then about looking on the cellular level. So you have all these receptors and ligands on cells, and this all interacts in disease in different ways. Every disease is different. So how can we use these potential exploits to treat any disease? And then the fourth block is about really looking at the molecules we can use and how we can build up a molecule, target this towards one of those cells, and then how that can be effective in treating a disease. So on that one, you'll actually have to design your own molecule and then market it to the entire course. It sounds daunting, but by that point, you're quite used to it. And then the second year.
So what did you design actually? Last course?
Yeah, we designed I can't remember actually. It was a molecule towards. I can't remember. It was a long time ago.
Yeah. You have done so many things afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. But you look at how it binds to the receptor, how effective this would potentially be, what the side effects might be, and basically all the things that you need to consider when you're building a new drug from scratch. So it's intense, but it's very interesting to actually get to do for yourself. The second year then kicks off with a immunology course or a neuroimmuno course. So you look at Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, IBD, irritable bowel disease, all these diseases where the body is attacking itself or something's going wrong inside the body, and how we can then look at these systems and how we can then potentially go on to treat it. I think the project of this is then designing an in vivo study in mice, and you have to then look at the approval process of this and how the research is really done.
And why does do animals have to be approved?
There's quite a lot of regulation behind animal work.
Yeah.
So
you're more practicing how to get it approved.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a very good technique to learn early on, because when it comes to actually doing drug research, you're going to have those skills to write the grounds, to write the ethical considerations for all these different experiments that you want to run. The second course is then about analytical chemistry or analytical biology. So we look at how we can use antibodies to analyze a certain component in the blood. It's set up as a CSI course, so you get some samples from a dead person, and then we have to find out how they died, what drugs were involved. So you use a lot of chromatography, HPLC. Quite a good one. ELISA, so using antibodies to then look at specific components in the blood. Really challenging. Really.
Did you solve the murder?
We did. You did?
We did solve
the murder. I even found out how much of the drug she'd taken.
Oh, well. Very good.
So
a lethal dose.
Yes.
At least
by that point, yeah. But it's a really good challenge to push yourself to see how far you can investigate.
Yeah.
Because there's obviously the main goals, and I think this is quite a nice theme within CPS. You have these main goals set to you by teachers, and they'll encourage you to push further. So we didn't have to find out how much of the drug she'd taken, but we thought, oh, it'd be kind of cool to know.
Yeah.
So then we looked up how to do it, and we found it out. So it's really nice to have the push behind you to study. The third course is then about the biotechnology. So this is all antibodies. So a lot of the new cancer treatments are antibodies targeted towards cancer cells. So your immune system can then fight the cancer. That was actually what that was partly the discovery for the Nobel Prize.
Oh
this year.
yes,
It was
exactly.
based on
Yeah,
biotechnology.
yeah.
So it's a really hot field, really valuable field in pharmaceutical sciences. And in this one was the project I was talking about. So we designed the CRISPR-Cas system, how we administer that to a patient, and the potential effect and potential costs, and weigh that all up. And then the fourth block of the second year is an elective block. So this can be any course that you'd like to do within the university. So that could be a course from pharmacy, a course from biomedical sciences, but then there's also courses from CPS as well. So you can really tailor your degree to how you'd want to specialize. So I did an advanced chemistry course. So that was building on the first course from the fourth course from the first year. So we looked more into how we actually react molecules together to make drugs.
So you really designed something.
Really started.
Did you design something really new? Really new molecule?
Not quite.
No?
No. The project was actually to synthesize fluoxetine or Prozac.
Oh, yeah.
That's a really important antidepressant medication. So we looked at how that's built up, learned the reactions behind it, and then had to apply that.
Okay, but you could start a factory and then.
We could, yeah. We could make a Prozac factory.
Make cheap fluoxetine.
Yeah.
Okay.
The third then looks a bit like that.
That's where you are now, right?
This is where I am.
Yeah.
So I'm in the first period of the third year. I'm currently doing an advanced immunology course because this first half is all elective courses. So you can again choose whatever you'd like to do. So I went for advanced immunology, and then in the second block I'm going to do epidemiology. So again, the study of drugs in humans and how we design trials. And I'm also going to follow a pharma and nutrition, so to speak. So it's looking at how we can use food interventions to affect the gut-brain axis, or vice versa, or how these things interplay. Because there's quite an upcoming theory that actually autism is caused by something that happens in the gut of the children. So there's quite a lot of research into how we can administer certain foods or certain parts of food to actually stop autism developing, or stop Parkinson's or Alzheimer's developing, because there's this link between the gut and the brain. So that's I'm hoping that will be really interesting. Actually.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And then maybe the big thing of the third year is the research internship. So that's performed at the university campus here, the science park, and you'll do a 6-month internship where you'll basically guide your own research underneath a PhD student or underneath a professor. So you're running your own experiments. You're basically pretending that you're a drug researcher for 6 months, which is the ultimate goal of the course. So it's really good to get this 6 months of hardships and success that come with the drug research. Yeah. So I haven't quite sorted mine yet, but I'm hoping to do it again in immunology.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'll be hopefully looking at autism or something with the pharma nutrition as well. So it's a good opportunity to specialize yourself.
Very interesting.
Hope so.
So this was mostly about the content. You also taught a little bit how you are told a little bit how you are, what kind of forms you encountered in the projects. So, but I can imagine that you wonder what are teaching methods. Well, actually, it is very different between courses. Like for example, at CSI, we're a lot in the laboratory, and then and sometimes even within a course it can be very different. So, but just to give you an estimate, about 1/3 is lectures, tutorials, or lab practicals. There's another third that is group work, and there's 1/3 self-study. So the group work is very important in CPS because if you want to be a researcher, it is really important that you can collaborate. You are never going.
Sure.
And actually, it's for all people very handy. Comes in very handy. All academic persons, but so it gives you opportunity to collaborate. And also, what is really, for example, with the CSI, there is a real problem, and you apply the theory to this murder case, for example. So that's also very a nice way of studying. And you practice a lot of skills. You have to think independently. You have to write. You have to present your results, whatever. So it's we think that group work is very important. So I was talking about group work, and a group work is for the group work you get a project. So what is a project? What does it mean? So usually it starts with a question. And usually the projects, you can pick your own within the settings of the course naturally, but you can, within the course, you can actually pick your own questions to answer. Yeah, like if you're interested in Alzheimer's or whatever. Then you will investigate what is already known, like you go into the literature or, and find out what is known. This way you will create new, or something, you can go into the literature, we can also do experiments, and in this way you create new knowledge. You will discuss this knowledge either in a written report or in a presentation or something else, and then you will evaluate what you learned, and actually, answering a question usually leads to a lot of new questions, right? So the circle will continue. Not in a course, then the circle is only gone through once usually, but in research, you don't need to be afraid.
I think that's the nice thing to focus on, that this is actually how research works. It seems like it's just the way you'll be taught, but actually this is what people do when you've actually graduated, when you've become a drug researcher. This is how you'll be working.
Yeah.
So, it's really nice to start that basis early of this independent thinking, independent questioning. And then being able to apply this in a group to make a project and then come back with more questions.
So you're saying it's quite a real life study?
Yeah, well, from what I've noticed so far.
Yeah.
Also nice to know is that there's an honours program attached, so this gives you opportunities to go to symposia, to thematic lectures, to trips out as a social event. So it's quite nice. To have the opportunity to further your studies outside of your normal study. So for example, I'm going to work on a project as part of my honours program where we're looking at and summarising the fecal transplant in mice for one of my professors at the moment. She wants to know a bit more about it.
Yeah.
And she basically needs to collect all the knowledge and then look at how she can use this for her future experiments. I said, well, okay, I need something to do for my honours program, so I can do some of this, do some research, and really, broaden what I've learned rather than just being fixed on what's in the course.
And it's a professor that's in knowledge that you already have an interest in.
Yes, yeah. So it's also very applicable to what I'm going to do in future. So I thought, well, it's a good opportunity to push myself a little bit further and to kind of stand out a little bit more.
So the CPS is an honors program. It also means that you have to like to be a little bit independent, to be not exactly told this is the assignments, first this, then and read these pages. But there's a lot of freedom. But it does not mean that you're all left by yourself. There's regular meetings with the teachers, and the teacher will give listen to how's the project going on, and help you if there's if you're stuck, but also if it goes really well, right? Give new ideas to how to go further.
It's more of a leash sort of idea than they're encouraging you on the way rather than spoon feeding you the ideas.
Yeah.
So it's a really useful way to learn.
And teachers actually really like also discussing with you.
For sure.
They're
interested to know
they sometimes say we learn as much from you as the students from the teachers. So we talked a lot about CPS program, but what Josh is going to do next is present 1 week from one course of the first year to give you a real day-to-day impression of how it is to study CPS.
Yeah, it's nice to know how your time is possibly broken down, what you're kind of expected to do. So this is the cell course, so it's looking at all the receptors and the various ways.
What the drug is doing in cell, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is the overall course design. It's 6 weeks of theory. Week 7 is your exam, and then the group project that we talked about is for the last 3 weeks. And then you come out with at the 10th week with a product that you've done together, and you'll probably present this as a poster or as a presentation or something. But the week 1 to 6 is all, as you can see on the slide, it's breaking down the different aspects of the cell, really focusing on what these do within the cell and the potential for these to be targeted in week 6. And then, you'll apply this knowledge in the exam and then hopefully pass it.
Yeah.
And then move on with the project where you'll also use your knowledge to produce something. And this is the project of that course. You'll be, if I remember correctly, it was looking at mast cells, which are involved in allergies.
Oh yeah.
So when you get an itch on your skin, or you get an itchy nose or something, that's partly because of these mast cells, which release a chemical which irritates your skin to make you itch it. So we looked at how we could affect this with drugs and made a proper report on this and did it in a scientific style. So it's a good amount of practice of the proper style of writing as well. Looking on a 1 week basis, the Monday usually starts off with a lecture. This is your theory, the theory part, and then so this one is kinase inhibitors. So we're looking at how we apply them in the clinic, how they are given to patients. So this is usually given by. So this would be given by an expert in the field usually. So this would be a clinician who works in drug administration. So they'll talk about their experience and what they would do in that situation. So it's an invaluable.
Yeah,
you can't put a price on that expertise. And then the afternoon is probably a tutorial on how to search a database. So this one is looking at genes, if I remember correctly. They're looking at how you can search the human genome for genes and bases in the DNA which are changed and mutated possibly, and how you can then use that as another tool to target your drugs. The Tuesday is probably presenting something from the previous week. So this would be results from the lab or results from some other thing. And you get to discuss your results that you had. So there's often quite a lot of back and forth between you and the professor. They want to encourage you to be critical of your own research, but then you also have the opportunity to question them about why something happened.
Yeah.
So it's really good to have a two-way conversation on it. And then in the afternoon you get a tutorial about how to write in scientific English, because even being a native speaker, it's maybe not the normal way of writing. No. So it's good to have a class dedicated to right. This is the style. This is the language you use. This is the layout, and it's something which you need for sure. So it's I found it really useful actually. The Wednesday will actually probably be a lab tour and presentations from various researchers within the group about what's actually going on now. Mm-hmm. So you get to see how they work, how they lay out their workspace, how they work on a day-to-day basis, because they are people too. That's maybe nice to know, and really get the experience of what it's like to be a drug researcher, first-hand experience. The Thursday is then possibly a free day, if you could call it that. You probably have to study for the exam or write some notes up, but there will be no formal classes where you are expected to be there. And then Friday is the end of the week, so there's usually a wrap-up where you summarize what you've gone through for the week. Usually a nice knowledge quiz for just to check you're on track with what you've learned so far. So it's a good way to finish up for the week, and then you can move on to the next topic the next week.
So what would happen if you graduate from CPS after 3 years at least? I can imagine that you wonder what is the next step. Well, most of the CPS graduates, like 95%, continue with the master program. And for the first 5 cohorts that graduate from CPS, because CPS started in 2010, so people from that started in 2015 graduated. We have the statistics, like 39% continues with the Master of Drug Innovation. That's really nice follow-up to CPS, and that's also what you are.
Yeah, no,
might
so
be
I have
considering.
to actually get my application in.
Yeah.
But I'll
Yeah.
probably apply for drug innovation
Yeah.
because, as Daphne was saying, it follows the same themes, the same ideas of drug research. So if you begin with CPS, it makes a lot of sense to continue through to drug innovation.
Yeah. If you have an interest in neuroscience, you could consider to do neuroscience and cognition. That's a master program in Utrecht. If maybe you have an interest in infection and immunity, you might also consider to do this master. Quite a lot of our graduates, one fifth about approximately, continue with the Master of Science and Business Management. And then you have 1 year of more where you go in depth with your science education, but you have also 1 year where you learn about business management, and you will also have an internship in a business company.
So it's really looking at the big pharma companies usually, so Pfizer or AstraZeneca or one of those companies.
So that is then the new part, whereas the science is familiar, but you are deepening this. And then 1/3 is doing another master program. This can be either in Utrecht, it can also be elsewhere in the Netherlands. We also have graduates that went to England or anywhere else. So there's a lot of opportunities, and of course, the choice of your master program is also a little bit influenced by the electives you did and your interests. Then after your master, if you're really interested in research, you will do a PhD most likely. And you can work either in the academic research or in any business company. Another possibility is to work in the drug regulations, because the picture of the building that you see in the slide, that is from the European Medicines Agency, because all the drugs that want to be on the markets, they have to go through this approval process. So that's very important. Of course, the drugs have to be safe and effective. So perhaps that is an opportunity. You could become a science teacher. Well, there are many more possibilities. What we also did is give you an impression of what our graduates are doing at the moment. So here you see that a great percentage is now doing their PhD because they're really interested into research. And also the fields are different. There are people in immunity, people in neuroscience, one girl is doing her PhD in Oxford. Then we have some graduates that are now working in a company in business. There are there's a category called various, because the girl Romy on the left, she is working at the Dutch regulatory agency, and Cedric in the middle, he's a hospital pharmacy resident, and the girl Marielle, she doesn't have a picture on LinkedIn, but she's doing a master to become a doctor, and then a special doctor in the sense that she's also trained to become a researcher. It's a special program. So Josh, but how is it to study in Utrecht?
I've loved it.
Yeah.
I think that maybe puts it in quite a nice way, really. 2 years on and I'm still here, so that's a good sign. It's
and you want to stay here because your master,
my master's here, and then maybe afterwards as well.
Oh yeah.
We'll see. It's definitely a very vibrant city. If you've ever been to Amsterdam, it's similar to Amsterdam in the terms that it's pretty, there's canals, there's something going on everywhere. But it's better than Amsterdam because you have no tourists.
It's not
so it really feels like it's a city where people live and enjoy, which is obviously a really nice atmosphere to have. In terms of studying, it's actually I didn't study in the UK, so I don't have much experience with studying. But from what I hear, it's nice that it's broken down into four blocks per year, so you have a nice focus for 10 weeks, move on to something else. That's a really nice thing. The facilities are really nice. I think we've got some pictures of it later on.
Yeah, I think here. You see how pretty Utrecht is.
So this is the city centre, so you can just walk through the cobbled streets. Get a really nice, all the nice scenery in the parks. We'll come up to the facilities maybe in a few slides, but the pluses of Utrecht is everyone speaks English, so you can get by without learning Dutch, which is quite handy. Obviously, when you first arrive, you don't speak any Dutch, and someone comes up to you and says something, and you go, "Oh, sorry, I don't speak Dutch," and it's no problem. They'll switch, and yeah, it's a really international city. You're in the perfect location in the Netherlands as well. It's described as the heart of the country, and you can see why when Amsterdam is half an hour away. The beach is half an hour away. You can get anywhere in Europe from here as well. So there's trains to Paris, to Berlin. Yeah, it's really a well-connected city as well.
And how do you enjoy it? I mean, what do you do besides your study? Do you enjoy your student life?
Yeah, so it seems like a busy course, but obviously you want some free time. So I actually play American football in Utrecht. So we train twice a week, and we have games on Sundays. So there's
Are there also a lot of Dutch players?
There are, The team is actually all Dutch except for me.
Oh, okay.
So
no Americans.
Well, unfortunately not. But it's maybe quite nice that even though I can't speak Dutch, they let me come and train. They will speak to me in English, and it's no problem to have someone who doesn't speak Dutch there. So it's a really everyone is so friendly as well. So I've really enjoyed that. I also have a part-time job as well. So actually, there is room next to your study for other things in your life. So don't be worried that you'll be consumed with all these drugs. But it's obviously intense, but there is room to have a social life, to have other things next to your program.
Which is indeed very important.
For sure.
This is a picture. So all the the science subjects are taught on the university campus outside the beautiful downtown. And here we give you an overview of the buildings that you most likely will visit. It's the David de Wiet building. It's a very new and shiny,
very
light building, a lot of windows. The practicals most likely are in the building in the middle, the Victor Konings building. Actually, when you're studying, all the buildings are abbreviated, right?
Yeah.
You'll say KGB, DDW, except for the Minhart.
That's Min.
Even that's
Min,
where you also have a lot of tutorials and group lectures. So nice buildings, actually. Then if you are really interested in applying to CPS, we do have entry requirements. There are you need chemistry, obviously, mathematics and physics. There's no biology there, but of course, if you did have biology, it's very helpful. In the past, we had some applicants that did not have biology, but they eventually did it well. And there is physics in the requirements, where that will not explain this kind of regulation, but in the program itself, there's hardly any physics.
It's maybe learning about how a machine works. So HPLC is quite physics-based, or NMR or something is quite physics-based, so you need to understand why certain things are happening, but it's only for 1 or 2 weeks of the course.
And also because, of course, this is an international program, you have to show English proficiency. Then we have a selection procedure. It contains 2 steps. First, you fill in a very elaborate questionnaire, right?
It's quite lengthy. Yeah.
It's quite lengthy. Yeah.
There's a lot of opportunity to describe yourself and to really explain who you are. Don't feel obliged to fill it all in. There is. You can write as little or as much as you like.
Yeah, it's kind of a paper interview actually.
Yeah.
And there's also room to really show who you are. And it's also important, of course, to see if you are a good match for CPS and vice versa. We also would like to have one reference letter for somebody that knows you in an academic setting. And then the next step is that you write an essay and possibly have an interview. And the essay is, with the essay, you get 3 articles, and you are asked to just read 1. And why do we send you 3 articles? Because just as in CPS, it's important that you pick a topic that you really like. So therefore, we provide you with 3 articles in 3 different science.
Maybe nice to mention is that the essay and the interview are all done over the internet. So the
interview, don't worry,
you don't have to travel to Utrecht, but the interview is via Skype, I believe. And the essay is done by email. So you get the email and you have some time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And even if the time doesn't suit you, you can let us know and we can try to arrange another time. Very important that there is you absolutely have to apply at StudyLink before January 15th of the next year, which is faster than you think.
It's already 2019.
And please, if you're really interested, please visit our website and just carefully read through everything, so you have all the time to do what needs to be done. We also mentioned scholarships. There are, but we have to be honest. There are not that many scholarships from the Dutch government or Dutch organizations. But the tip could be that you also look into your own country if you can get a scholarship from your home country.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. Some people do manage to get money for studying here.
Yeah. So, depends a little bit on your country. I think you're not so lucky.
No, I'm not quite so lucky.
Not so lucky, yeah. Then it's time for our Q&A.
Yeah, so I don't know if we've had any questions yet on the chat, but we've had some by email before we started. So if you have any questions whilst we're answering these ones, just send them in the chat. Patricia will send them through to us.
Exactly.
And just
they'll arrive here.
Yeah.
From the house.
I think we covered the typical day.
Yes.
The selection, I think.
Yes. No.
We've got a question here from Jessica. She says, how many international students are in the program, actually make it to study the program?
Yeah.
It really does vary year to year, is probably the best way to put it. Yeah. So the year where I started, there was about 10 internationals from 40, 50 people, which maybe seems quite low, but a lot of internationals apply and then either don't make the academic requirements or the English requirements or something along those lines. So there's obviously a wide interest from international students, but there's only limited spaces, which maybe actually we should have mentioned that.
Oh, yeah.
There is a fixed number of spaces for this program. It's set at 50 people per year. So you'll have a real cohort of people who you know, who you see day in, day out. You'll be friends inside the lectures and outside as well, which is really nice.
And teachers know you by name.
Exactly.
And it also has to do with, because there's a lot of group work, the program has to be small. And we also wish to have motivated students. So but thus far, if you are really motivated and you are good students, you made it into the program.
For sure. Yeah, it's a lot on motivation.
Yeah.
And a lot about character. So if you're really motivated to do your
best,
don't worry.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Just apply, and obviously you need the grades there. But if I'm not the perfect student. Yeah. I think a lot of my friends would say that, but I like to push myself to keep studying, to keep going that extra mile in terms of the effort. So it's all a question of your motivation, really. But this year, going back to the international students, this year they've managed to have
12, 13 out of the 47. Yeah.
So that's more than my year. So I think it's always growing and it shifts each year, but it doesn't make that much of an impact on the program because you talk to Dutch people and international people all the same. You're all studying together.
You say there's more similarity just in the character, the personalities.
Exactly. You'll find that you click with all the classmates because you're all
interested in the
same.
Yeah. So it doesn't really matter where you're from.
Exactly.
But it's nice though to have other.
For sure, to have the variety of the opinions and the thought processes that everyone has.
Yeah.
So it's real nice to have that mix. But it doesn't make that much difference.
Let's see. What are some of the details?
We've got a question.
Is there a possibility? This one is
Thibaut. Yeah. So there's a question: is it possible to do a exchange semester? You're maybe the most qualified one for this.
That is true. It's possible to go abroad for 2 periods. So for 2 times 10 weeks, 20 weeks. it takes a little bit of arrangement, but it's definitely possible. People have gone, for example, to South Korea, to Sweden. Yeah, it's really nice.
So you do it during your elective
Yeah,
courses.
yeah,
so
exactly.
You have compulsory and electives. And
Yeah.
Your elective courses are free to go wherever you'd like.
Yeah.
And do whatever you
Yeah.
whatever you want. We've got a live question from Ma.
Yes.
Um,
Oh yeah. So the question is: so are you able to get a pharmacy diploma if you complete the course? If you're able to speak Dutch, you can continue with the master in pharmacy,
yeah.
and you have to choose the right electives in the CPS program to have no delay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have to do some extra courses to qualify for the pharmacy master.
How did Maurits asks, how did I find the application procedure? If you start early enough, it's not that difficult. It's maybe I was told I wrote quite a lot in my application form. I saw the space was there and I decided to fill it. But it's just a lot of questions about how do you like group work, what kind of person do you see yourself as, but then also about like your academic life. So what kind of projects have you completed in school? What did you learn from this? It's really trying to see, did you have this mindset to like investigate?
Yeah, that's the most important. Yeah, you have to.
It seems like quite a long questionnaire, but it's just answer it honestly and just write down what.
I think the main things are you have to be really interested in the life sciences, drugs, and you have to be really appeal to the type of program. That there's a lot of group work, that you like to investigate something.
Yeah.
But was it stressful?
I think the most stressful part was pressing the button send on the email, but it's not that stressful to write it because it's just quite long. But you want to obviously make a good impression, so you focus on what you're writing.
Yeah.
The best advice maybe is to start early and just take your time writing it as well.
Exactly. You do have time to think over your questions. You can save those answers. You can ask other people maybe for some inspiration.
Yeah.
Is it true? How do you see me? Yeah.
Yeah.
And how about the essay?
Actually quite enjoyable,
I
think. When I wrote the application, one of the articles was about the teenage brain and how the molecules inside it are different to an adult brain and how this affects behavior and attitudes. So I thought, well, I have a teenage brain, so that's obviously what I want to answer. It wasn't a long essay. It's about a page and a half maybe, but it's just showing that I could explain myself, express myself in English, and could pull out all these points from this article and express my opinion. And it's like any other essay, but
it shows some creativity.
Yeah, that's also true.
And we also hope that if you like to read the article, it's already reassuring.
Yeah.
If you like to write it, it helps to see if you are a match for CPS.
Sure, yeah.
What is the workload? How busy are you? Yeah, you already addressed it, huh?
Yeah, no, it seems like it's quite intense. Maybe you'll know people studying a different program and they'll have less to do, let's say. But if you manage your time, if you are responsible with the deadlines, which sometimes you're not, but if you're generally quite well behaved about how and when you do things, you can create time, let's say. So you can have time in the evening to go to the bar or to have a movie night or something. So there is time next to it.
And I think also it's, for example, we said in the slides, Thursday is for self-study, but of course you can also do your job and then plan the self-study and then any other evening or in the weekend.
Whenever you can.
There's a lot of autonomy, I hope.
Yeah, flexibility, autonomy. It's maybe a lot of responsibility as well. But you'd being an adult by that point, you'd hope you'd be able to manage yourself a little bit more, which is quite an important skill to learn.
Let's see for some other questions. Master progress record.
Maybe not.
Can we hand in the English test later? I'm sorry. Probably, it's on the day.
Deadline.
Well, the deadline of applying a student link is in January, but to fulfill the requirements, you have more time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in my case, the English exams don't finish, or we do the exams in May and June, and we don't know the results until August. So that maybe it's quite late for Dutch people who do their exams in May, get the results in June.
Yeah.
So I have to communicate this and say, well, I'm not actually going to know how well I did or how badly I did until August, and then it's no problem. Just send them in when you have them. And there is flexibility because there is an understanding that every country works differently on exams, on grades. So just explain the problem if it's understandable and it's not.
And especially for internationals, you have on one side you apply with the questionnaire, and that is read by CPS, people from CPS. But if you have an international diploma, the admissions office will determine whether it's equivalent to a Dutch diploma, and they will let you know, of course. And in the letter, it's always said you need this and this, or you are okay as it is now. Just send in the result. They will give you all the data that are important.
There's always someone on the end of that email. If you have any question related to that, they're the best people to ask. They know everything.
Just carefully reading is always important. So for before applying, perhaps really look into the entry requirements and the deadlines.
Yeah, I think it's quite all well laid out quite nicely on the website. So you just choose where you're from, and it will explain how that needs to be equivalent to this.
Yeah.
And if you don't know if that's equivalent, send an email. And you should get a response.
Exactly.
Quickly.
Yeah. So if there's any doubt, please ask.
Yeah, that's the best way. Yeah.
I think we were now through. Oh no! Look here, you have more. Our extracurricular activity. There's a question from Kush. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Are extracurricular activities taken into account during the selection procedure? Yes, not because they are extracurricular, but if this shows you what are your interests, it tells us more about you.
Yeah,
so, of course.
So it's all about your character.
Yeah.
Again, if you're someone who pursues things outside of just studying.
Yeah, I think that is good for CPS students.
I think, and then you'll have the similar atmosphere of everyone being motivated to do extra things, to do something different, so sports, so an association, or whatever. It all makes you a more interesting person and you'll have different opinions to other people. So it's all weighing up in terms of who you are and what kind of, just about you.
Shulamit, I'm sorry for the pronunciation. She wonders what weighs more in your application: grades, motivation, extracurriculars, or the test? I think grades are asked to know if you are fulfilling the basic requirements. So we want students that have a nice average. Motivation is really important. Extracurricular demonstrates your motivation, and the test is, I think, where the essay is meant. That weighs in for 40% versus all the others at 60%.
Yeah, that's maybe the best way to sum it up.
Yeah. And then we have John.
The other one.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know the guy.
Let's see. Career options. John asked whether this program enables one to work with the United Nations, and if so, there are specific demands. No.
Maybe not.
No. Maybe this is from another.
I think we're being asked to maybe wrap this up. So I think it's good if there are any other questions to.
The Q&A is still open, right? After we
So keep on asking your questions, and we'll answer them. But
and then thank you very much that you kept this so long. So please, you can read here if there's the study advisor, students, you are mentioned as well. So if you have any remaining questions, there should be room to ask.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining.
Have a nice day.
Yeah.